Let me tell you something the old-timers understood in their bones, something that has been quietly forgotten in the age of grocery delivery and two-day shipping. The man who waits until the storm arrives to patch his roof will patch it in the rain. That simple truth, older than any of us, older than most nations, is the foundation of everything you're about to hear. Because emergency food preparation isn't about panic buying. It isn't about filling a shopping cart when the shelves are already half empty and your neighbors are circling the aisle like nervous hounds. By that point, friend, the ship has already sailed. What truly protects a household in hard times is already sitting quietly somewhere, on a shelf, in a pantry, in a cellar. Food that was put away deliberately, chosen wisely, and left alone to do what it does best: wait. Generations before ours understood something we've largely unlearned. The kitchen was not just a place to cook, it was a vault, a family's first line of security. Grandmothers, who had lived through genuine scarcity, knew which foods could be trusted over months and years, and they stocked accordingly, without a single YouTube video to guide them. We're going to walk through 20 of those foods today. Some are ancient, some are modern. All of them are proven. We'll count from the useful down to the truly legendary, and by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand why the old-timers were far wiser than we've given them credit for. Let's begin. Number 18, white rice. Every serious conversation about long-term food security starts with rice. There is a reason for that, and it has nothing to do with marketing or trend following. It has to do with chemistry and history in equal measure. White rice, when milled, loses the natural oils that cause whole grains to turn rancid over time. Strip those oils away and you strip away the primary pathway to spoilage. Seal what remains in airtight mylar bags or food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, and you have created something that archaeologists have confirmed from ancient dig sites: rice that remains safe after decades. 30 years of shelf life, achieved without refrigeration, without technology, without anything more than a sealed container in a cool, dry place. Throughout history, rice has served as both sustenance and currency during disruptions. When trade routes collapsed or harvests failed, communities that held rice held power. Its versatility across cultures and centuries speaks for itself. It adapts to nearly every spice, every protein, every preparation method you can imagine. Inexpensive, universal, and extraordinarily patient. That's why it opens the list. Number 17, ramen noodles. Now don't let the humble reputation fool you. The old saying goes, never judge a tool by how it looks in the shed. Ramen noodles. The flat, brick-style packets, not the foam cups, stored in cool, dry conditions inside airtight containers, can remain perfectly usable for up to a full decade. A decade of fast, reliable carbohydrate energy, sitting in your pantry, ready to go on nothing more than hot water. The foam cup versions don't hold up nearly as well. The container itself degrades and compromises what's inside. For proper long-term storage, always transfer flat packets into sealed containers to guard against moisture and pests. Ramen isn't pretending to be fine cuisine. What it is fast calories at almost no cost, requiring almost nothing to prepare. In a genuine disruption, when your mental bandwidth is already stretched to its limits, simplicity is a feature, not a flaw. Number 16, canned vegetables. Nobody has ever reached for a can of green beans with great enthusiasm under normal circumstances. The old-timers would remind you, however, that context changes everything. 2 weeks into a supply disruption, when fresh produce is gone and your options have narrowed considerably, that unremarkable can looks entirely different. The canning process vacuum seals and heat treats the contents from the moment the lid goes on, stopping the spoilage clock. Stored properly, most canned vegetables remain safe and nutritionally solid for 5 to 10 years, sometimes longer. Here is the detail most people miss entirely. The liquid inside the can is not waste. When clean drinking water becomes limited, that brine carries real value. Canned vegetables quietly serve double duty, providing both nourishment and hydration from a single container. Fiber, iron, antioxidants, key vitamins, all preserved in meaningful quantities behind that plain label. Plain packaging, serious performance. Now, if you're finding this useful, and I believe you are, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below telling me what's already in your own pantry. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Let's keep going. Number 15, honey. I mentioned this one at the very start, and for good reason. There is a jar sitting in the Cairo Museum that was pulled from an ancient Egyptian tomb. That jar contains honey. That honey is approximately 3,000 years old, and by all scientific accounts, it is still safe to eat. 3,000 years. What does honey possess that allows it to defy the ordinary laws of spoilage? Pure chemistry. Honey contains almost no free moisture. Its natural acidity, primarily gluconic acid, creates an environment in which bacteria cannot survive. Without bacterial activity, decomposition has no pathway. A properly sealed jar of pure, unadulterated honey has no biological mechanism for going bad. It simply does not expire. Beyond shelf life, honey has served for millennia as a wound dressing agent, a throat soother, a digestive remedy, and a natural energy source. When medical supplies are limited and meals are monotonous, a spoonful of honey covers more ground than its reputation suggests. One practical note from the old kitchen wisdom: crystallized honey is not spoiled honey. That's physics, not failure. A warm water bath restores it to liquid without affecting a single property. When you've been eating the same plain staples for 2 weeks running, a spoonful of honey transforms a functional meal into something that actually feels worth sitting down for. Number 14, lentils. Small, quiet, persistently underestimated. Lentils belong among the most overlooked items in any serious food storage plan, and that oversight costs people dearly when circumstances tighten. Kept dry and sealed in airtight containers, lentils remain nutritionally viable for up to 30 years. 3 decades of protein, complex carbohydrates, dietary fiber, and iron, no refrigeration required. When fresh meat becomes unavailable during disruptions, which it typically does before most other things, lentils step in as a genuine protein source, not merely a placeholder. They also cook faster than most dried legumes, which matters considerably when fuel must be conserved. But here is the quality that truly wins them their place on this list. Plain lentils are almost neutral in flavor, and they absorb surrounding flavors better than nearly any other staple. Add spices, a bit of canned tomato, a bouillon cube, and they become something satisfying. Soups, stews, savory patties, grain bowls. The blank canvas isn't a weakness, it's one of their finest practical qualities. 30 years on your shelf, exceptional nutrition, and they'll taste however you need them to. Number 13, sugar. Most people file sugar under comfort items, something for baking, something for coffee, not something that belongs in a serious emergency plan. That framing misses the majority of what sugar actually does when supplies grow scarce. Pure white sugar, kept dry and sealed from moisture, lasts indefinitely. Like salt, it simply waits. It doesn't break down, doesn't lose its sweetness, doesn't become unsafe. But its deeper value in a survival context lies in preservation. Sugar has been used for centuries to extend the life of jams, fruit preserves, and syrups. The principle is sound. Sugar creates an osmotic environment that draws moisture away from bacteria and inhibits their activity. When refrigeration becomes unreliable, sugar transitions from sweetener to preservation tool. It is also the fastest calorie delivery system available to a human body. Under physical or mental stress, simple sugars respond faster than anything else in your supply. And when meals become repetitive, which they always do, eventually, a small measure of sweetness creates a disproportionate shift in how a meal feels to eat. Sugar earns its place specifically in the hard times, not just the comfortable ones. Number 12, salt. If there is one item on this entire list that has shaped civilizations more than any other, it is this one. Salt fueled trade routes across continents. It determined which peoples could preserve food through winter and which could not. The word salary traces its origin to the Latin word for salt, because salt was once considered worthy of being used as payment for honest work. That is not mythology, that is recorded history. For storage purposes, the essential truth about salt is also the simplest. Pure salt has no biological mechanism for spoilage. Kept dry, it remains exactly as it is, forever. But its function in a survival context goes far beyond seasoning. Salt draws moisture from food and creates conditions inhospitable to bacteria. The same principle behind curing meat, brining fish, and fermenting vegetables. In a serious situation, salt doesn't just improve your food, it extends the life of everything else in your supply. Physiologically, your body requires sodium for fluid balance, muscle function, and nerve transmission. That's not a preference, that's biology. A practical note, stick to plain non-iodized salt for bulk storage. The additives in iodized varieties can degrade over time and affect flavor in ways that matter when you're working with limited ingredients. Pause right there. If you're still with me, and I believe you should be, now's the time to give this video a like, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and leave a comment below. Tell me, what's the one item you already have stored that you feel genuinely good about? I read every one of them. Number 11, white vinegar. Almost every household owns a bottle. Almost no household thinks seriously about it. White vinegar gets pushed to the back of the cabinet after the salad dressing is made and the pickling project is finished, and then it gets forgotten entirely. What that overlooks is its genuinely extraordinary nature. White vinegar, built around acetic acid, is inherently self-preserving. Bacteria cannot grow in it. Mold cannot develop. The flavor doesn't drift with time. A bottle purchased today and a bottle purchased 10 years ago are functionally the same product. It simply does not expire, but permanence is only where the story begins. Vinegar is a proven food preservative. Pickling extends the shelf life of vegetables considerably without refrigeration. It functions as an effective antimicrobial surface cleaner, a natural meat tenderizer, a mild insect deterrent, and a fabric treatment. In a situation where resources are constrained and every item must earn its shelf space, one product that covers cooking, cleaning, and preservation simultaneously is not just convenient, it is strategically indispensable. A few large jugs, stored in a cool and dark location, require almost no space and provide years of utility. Number 10, powdered milk. Powdered milk has a reputation problem it doesn't entirely deserve. It gets dismissed as a pale imitation of the real thing, an emergency substitute at best. But consider what it actually delivers before making that judgment. Non-fat dry milk, sealed properly against moisture and heat, remains nutritionally viable for 20 years or longer. That's 2 decades of consistent calcium, protein, and essential vitamins including B12 and D, without refrigeration, without special handling beyond keeping moisture away. Add water and you have functional milk ready for coffee, cereals, soups, baking, and sauces. The flavor gap between powdered and fresh milk is real, worth acknowledging honestly. But in a genuine emergency, flavor stops being the primary factor. Nutrition, calories, and availability are. On all three, powdered milk performs reliably. One small step worth taking. After opening any package, transfer the contents into a sealed container with an oxygen absorber. That single measure meaningfully extends how long your supply remains at its best. 20 years of reliable nutrition, 0 refrigeration, more practical than its reputation allows. Number 9, instant coffee. This might be the most psychologically significant item on the entire list, and that is not a casual claim. Instant coffee, specifically freeze-dried, vacuum-sealed instant coffee, can remain potent and usable for 20 years or more. It requires nothing but hot water and under 2 minutes of preparation. No equipment, no grinding, no filters. A cup of something warm and caffeinated in conditions where little else is going as planned. The old-timers understood that morale is not a soft consideration. It is a practical one. When daily routines have evaporated, when everything familiar has become unpredictable, a cup of coffee is not just caffeine, it is normalcy. A small familiar anchor in uncertain waters that matters in ways that are genuinely difficult to quantify but impossible to dismiss. Practically, caffeine improves alertness, supports focus under stress, and can mildly suppress appetite, a useful quality when food must be rationed carefully. Compact, lightweight, and easily stored, There are very few items on this list where emotional value and practical value align this completely. Don't leave it out. Number 8. Bouillon cubes. Scroll past this one at your own peril. Picture day 4 of eating the same plain bowl of rice and lentils. You are nourished. Your body has received what it needs. But something inside you is wearing down quietly in a different way. Not physical hunger, but something harder to name. A dullness, a heaviness that has nothing to do with calories. That is palatability fatigue. It is one of the most underestimated pressures in any extended emergency, and one of the least discussed. Now add a single bouillon cube dissolved into that bowl. One cube builds savory depth that changes the entire character of the meal. The calories are nearly unchanged. The nutrition hasn't shifted dramatically, but the meal now feels like a meal worth eating. Bouillon cubes are concentrated flavor in a package that weighs almost nothing, lasting 5 to 10 years under proper conditions. For essentially no additional cost, weight, or storage space, they transform the eating experience of every grain, legume, and canned vegetable in your entire supply. That is a return on investment the old-timers would have recognized and respected immediately. Before we get into the top 7, take a second and hit that subscribe button. These are the kinds of things that deserve to be passed down, and subscribing makes sure you don't miss a single one. Drop a like too. It genuinely helps. Now let's continue, because these next entries are where it gets genuinely impressive. Number 7. Oats. Oats look plain. They've always looked plain, and that consistently undercuts their reputation among people who haven't thought carefully about what they actually deliver. Properly sealed in airtight containers in a cool, dry environment, oats remain viable for 30 years or more. That places them in an extraordinary category, alongside white rice and lentils, a short list of foods that the modern world keeps undervaluing and history keeps vindicating. Rich in soluble fiber, meaningful in iron and B vitamins, decent in protein for a grain, and calorie-dense without being heavy. A strong base for any morning meal when sustained energy throughout the day matters. The versatility is equally solid. Warm porridge, dense energy bars, thickener for soups and stews, mixed with dried fruit and honey for a no-cook meal that asks almost nothing of you. Affordable in bulk, lightweight, zero refrigeration required, and good enough that you'd eat them by choice on a regular morning, not just in a crisis. That is the mark of a food that truly earns its place in your pantry. Number 6. Canned meats. When fresh protein disappears, and in serious supply disruptions, it is typically among the first things to go. Canned meat is what fills the gap. Tuna, chicken, sardines, salmon, fully cooked, vacuum sealed, and ready to eat the moment the lid comes off. No preparation, no refrigeration, no waiting. Most canned meats hold for 5 to 10 years depending on the product and storage conditions. The vacuum sealing and heat sterilization process halts biological deterioration from the moment of canning, which is why properly stored cans frequently remain safe, well beyond their printed dates. Nutritionally, they deliver serious value. High in protein, calorie-dense, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, particularly sardines and salmon, which pack more nutritional density per calorie than almost anything else on this list. And the versatility is underrated. Canned chicken folds seamlessly into a rice dish with no indication of where it came from. Tuna works in nearly any grain-based meal. When your body needs protein regardless of circumstances, these cans earn every inch of shelf space they occupy. Number 5. Cooking fats, oils, and ghee. This is the category most people skip when building a food storage plan. It is also the category whose absence they feel first and most acutely. Your body cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, or K without fat. All 4 are fat-soluble. All 4 are critical. A diet of grains, legumes, and canned vegetables will keep you functioning at a basic level, but without adequate fat, you will not be absorbing the nutrition those foods contain. The meals won't feel satisfying after a few days, and the calories won't be delivering at full efficiency. Vegetable oils and olive oil, stored in a cool and dark environment, typically remain viable for 2 to 3 years, ideal for sautéing, enriching soups, and making simple meals feel substantially more nourishing. Ghee, clarified butter with the milk solids removed, performs considerably better in long-term storage. Its low moisture content and natural stability allow it to last significantly longer than regular butter without refrigeration, and it handles high cooking temperatures without breaking down. Fat delivers 9 calories per gram, compared to 4 for protein or carbohydrates. In a context where calories are at a premium, that density is not a luxury, it is a mathematical advantage. This category separates surviving from genuinely sustaining yourself over the long run. Number 4. Freeze-dried and canned fruits. When fresh produce disappears, the gap it leaves is larger than most people anticipate. Not just nutritionally, but emotionally and psychologically. Freeze-dried fruits, strawberries, blueberries, apples, mangoes, are processed in a way that removes nearly all moisture while preserving most of the nutritional profile and flavor intact. Stored properly, the shelf life reaches up to 25 years. Eat them straight from the bag, rehydrate them, stir them into oatmeal, or use them in simple baking. That flexibility matters more than it sounds. Canned fruits don't match that shelf life, typically landing in the 3 to 5 year range, but they are widely available, affordable, and nutritionally solid. A can of peaches or pineapple provides vitamin C, natural sugars, and a flavor experience that is genuinely different from everything else in a long-term supply. That word, different, deserves far more weight than it usually gets. Different is what keeps people psychologically grounded when everything else has started to feel identical and relentless. The old-timers preserved fruit not just because it was nutritious, they preserved it because sweetness and variety are forms of sustenance too. Number 3. MREs. MREs, meals ready to eat, were designed for one very specific set of circumstances: to feed a soldier operating in an active combat environment. No preparation time available, no cooking equipment, no access to clean water, no margin for error. That endorsement speaks before we've said anything else. Each MRE is a fully self-contained meal inside a single durable pouch. An entree, a side dish, condiments, a snack, a dessert, sometimes a beverage mix. Many include a flameless ration heater, a simple chemical reaction that warms the food without any external heat source. A hot meal in any conditions from nothing but the pouch itself, stored at moderate temperatures. MREs typically remain viable for 5 to 10 years. In cooler conditions, that window extends further. Compact, portable, and complete, working equally well in an emergency kit or on a pantry shelf. The nutritional balance is deliberate and thorough, engineered to meet the caloric and macronutrient demands of someone under significant physical stress. When convenience, portability, and complete nutrition must all come from a single item simultaneously, MREs deliver without complication. We're almost at the top. Before we get there, if you've watched this far, you're the kind of person this content is made for. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Which of these items surprised you most? I want to know. Now, let's talk about number 2, because this one genuinely catches people off guard. Number 2, wheat berries. These look entirely unremarkable. Whole, unprocessed wheat kernels sitting in a bulk bin. The kind of thing most people walk past without a second thought. The old-timers didn't walk past them. They knew something we've largely forgotten. Here is the crucial distinction between wheat berries and flour. Flour goes stale. When wheat is milled, the process cracks open each kernel and exposes the natural oils inside to oxygen. Those oils oxidize quickly. Within months, nutritional quality declines and rancidity sets in. Most bags of flour under typical home conditions have a shelf life measured in months, not years. Wheat berries don't share that vulnerability. The intact outer shell protects everything inside. Sealed in airtight containers in a cool environment, wheat berries remain fully viable for 30 years or longer, without losing nutritional integrity or the ability to be milled into fresh flour when the time comes. Read that again. 30 years on your shelf, then grind them fresh. They are also directly edible when cooked, soaked overnight and simmered. They produce a chewy, substantial grain that works well in porridges, salads, and soups. More texture, more nutrition, and more depth than anything coming from pre-milled flour. For anyone building a genuinely serious long-term pantry, wheat berries are among the most undervalued items you could stock. Number 1, peanut butter. Here we are, the top of the list. If you've spent this entire time expecting something ancient and exotic, something that requires special storage equipment or carries a legendary story from antiquity, what comes next will surprise you. It's something that's sitting in most kitchens right now, probably already open. In many households, already half empty: peanut butter. The reason it sits at number one is not one single factor. It is the convergence of every factor, arriving simultaneously in one completely ordinary jar. Start with nutrition. 2 tablespoons deliver roughly 190 calories before you've added a single thing to the meal. Around 8 grams of protein per serving. Healthy, unsaturated fats that support cardiovascular function and help your body absorb fat-soluble vitamins. Meaningful amounts of magnesium, niacin, vitamin E, and potassium. Dense, functional nutrition in a compact and inexpensive format that requires no refrigeration, no special storage setup, no oxygen absorbers, no Mylar bags. It sits on a shelf in its original container, patient and ready. The shelf stability of an unopened jar extends well past its printed date. The low moisture content and high fat composition give bacteria very little to work with. Storage couldn't be more straightforward. Then there is the convenience factor, which sounds trivial until you actually need it. Peanut butter requires zero preparation. Open the jar. Eat. No water, no heat, no equipment, no thought. When you are managing a real emergency and your mental bandwidth is already stretched past its comfortable limits, food that asks nothing of you in return is worth more than it sounds when everything is calm and unhurried. The versatility stacks on itself in ways that make it uniquely valuable in a mixed pantry. Spread it on crackers or hardtack. Stir it into oatmeal. Blend it with powdered milk into a high-calorie protein mixture. Mix it with rice and vinegar for a simple and genuinely satisfying meal. Eat it directly from the jar when nothing else is available. It works across an almost unreasonable range of preparations without ever requiring a stretch of imagination. But here is the factor that truly locks in the number one position. The one the calorie counts and shelf life numbers can't fully capture. Picture 2 weeks into a serious disruption. You have been eating plain rice and lentils twice a day. You are nourished. Your body has received what it needs. But the meals have become a weight of their own. A quiet, accumulating reminder of how narrow things have become. Every bowl the same. Every meal a function rather than an experience. Then you open a jar of peanut butter. You take a spoonful and something shifts. It doesn't taste like a survival ration. It tastes like something you would choose to eat on any ordinary, unremarkable Tuesday. In a stretch of time that has offered very little in the way of comfort or familiarity, that single spoonful carries weight that goes well beyond its calories. The old-timers understood this. Morale is not a soft consideration. In extended hardship, it directly affects judgment, resilience, and the capacity to maintain structure when circumstances are actively working against you. Food that supports morale is not a luxury. It is a functional asset, as practical as any tool in the shed. Peanut butter delivers everything a serious pantry needs, and it makes you feel better while doing it. Crunchy or smooth, natural or classic, it doesn't matter. Keep it sealed, keep it stored, keep it on your shelf. That is why it's number one, and honestly, it isn't close. A final word from the old pantry. So there it is, 20 foods, counted down from useful to genuinely legendary, chosen not because they are trending, not because a marketing campaign built a story around them, but because they have been proven across generations, emergencies, expeditions, and long winters. Some are ancient, honey that outlasted dynasties, salt that built trade empires, wheat that crossed continents sealed inside clay jars. Some are modern and deliberately engineered. MREs built to exact performance standards, freeze-dried fruits preserved through processes that didn't exist a century ago. And some are simply quiet and dependable in the way the best things always are. Rice that refuses to expire, oats that keep their word for decades, peanut butter that delivers everything you need and asks almost nothing in return. The old-timers had a phrase that applies here: prepare in plenty, so you may endure in scarcity. It wasn't pessimism, it was wisdom, the kind that comes from actually living through hard times, rather than simply reading about them. Build your pantry around these foods, rotate your supply, store what you will genuinely eat when it matters, not just what looks impressive on a shelf. And remember, the best time to build a resilient food supply was 20 years ago. The second best time is today, before you need it, before the shelves empty, before the storm arrives. Because the man who patches his roof before the rain comes does it standing upright, in clear light, without rushing. That's a different experience entirely from the man who waits. If this reached you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below with the one item you are walking away from that's determined to add to your pantry. Your answer might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. Until next time, keep your shelves full, your head clear, and your pantry